Ethan, please tell your men to stop. If they keep hitting him, he's going to die. My wife, Eleanor Thorne, usually the picture of icy high society elegance, was currently a mess. She was staring at half a dozen hulking security guards as they brutally beat a man curled into a fetal position on the floor. She turned to me, begging for mercy with frantic eyes. The guards paused, looking at me for a signal, but when I remained silent, they resumed the assault. Ethan, please. I'll send him out of the country, I swear. We were clean, there was nothing between us. I'll never see him again, okay? Just stop. She rushed over and grabbed the hem of my coat. I caught her wrist and shoved her back. She stumbled, losing her balance and falling hard onto the wet pavement. Send him out of the country? I drawled, the suggestion piquing my interest. I raised a hand, and the guards instantly froze. And where exactly were you planning on sending him? London? Paris? Or maybe a lawless cartel town across the border? Ethan, Caleb lived in Europe for years. He's used to it there. Maybe we could just... Europe? Do they harvest organs in Europe? No. Then keep hitting him. Beat him until he's half dead. Clearly, that wasn't the answer I wanted. No, Ethan. Fine. Fine. Do what you said. Send him to the border, to the lawless zones. Just don't let them kill him here. Eleanor knew that if this continued, Caleb Vance would be a corpse or a vegetable within minutes. In her mind, the borderlands were a gamble, but a gamble meant he might at least survive. I gave the guards their final instructions. They dragged the mangled, unrecognizable body of Caleb Vance toward a black SUV, ready to transport him into the shadows of the southern border overnight. Eleanor stood there like a child who had been caught in a lie, her head bowed as she followed me. When I reached my car, she tried to slide into the passenger seat, as she always did. I blocked the door. What do you think you're doing? Ethan, we're going home, right? It's over now. She looked at my hand on the door, her eyes brimming with a sudden, sharp fear, as if she finally realized the ground was shifting beneath her. Home. I let out a sharp, cold laugh. I looked at her as if she were a complete stranger. There's no home for us anymore. I'll have my lawyers contact you about the divorce. I slammed the door shut. In the rearview mirror, I saw her strength give out. She collapsed into a puddle on the ground, a broken heap of silk and diamonds. Just a month ago, we were the gold standard for a power couple in New York. How did it come to this? My mind drifted back 3 years. It was a bright, clear day, and I was in a rare good mood. It was the day of our engagement party. The event was held at the penthouse of the Sterling Grand, the crown jewel of my family's hotel empire. I stood at the end of the red carpet, a glass of vintage champagne in hand, waiting for my fiancée. The merger between the Sterling Group and Thorne Enterprises was a match made in corporate heaven. The Thornes were new money, aggressive upstarts who needed the Sterling pedigree to solidify their standing. The Sterlings needed the Thornes' dominance in the emerging tech sectors. It was a strategic alliance, purely transactional. As the heir to the Sterling fortune, I was young, successful, and the city's most eligible bachelor. And she, Eleanor Thorne, was the only daughter of the Thorne family. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but possessed a temperament as cold as a Siberian winter. She was the city's most famous ice queen. More importantly, her reputation was spotless. Beyond her looks, she was known for her integrity. When the Thorne family faced bankruptcy years ago, it was Eleanor who stepped in. She had saved the firm from the brink, steering the sinking ship back into the light and leading the family back to the top of the food chain. Mr. Sterling, Ms. Thorne has arrived, my assistant, Marcus, whispered. I looked up. She was wearing a white, floor-length silk gown that clung to her like a second skin. Her hair was swept up, revealing a long, elegant neck and delicate collarbones. She moved with a grace that was both noble and understated. She didn't look like the daughter of an upstart at all. She didn't look at me, nor did she acknowledge the crowd. Her expression was like a still lake. When she reached me, she stopped. I look forward to our partnership, she said. Her voice was flat, devoid of warmth. She extended a hand. I took it. Ice queen, indeed. Not just her attitude, but her skin felt like marble. The feeling is mutual, Eleanor. I smiled, deciding to lay my cards on the table. After the wedding, I won't interfere with your private life. You can do as you please. You'll have the title of Mrs. Sterling, and I'll ensure your position is untouchable. She blinked, seemingly caught off guard by my bluntness. She gently withdrew her hand. Good. At that moment, I could see she had zero expectations for this marriage. To her, I was just another task on her to-do list. Life after the wedding was quiet. We lived in a sprawling estate in Greenwich. It was massive, originally decorated in a gaudy, ostentatious style that I had gutted and replaced with a warm, minimalist aesthetic she preferred. She loved roses, so I filled the gardens with rare varieties imported from all over the world. She had a sensitive stomach and couldn't handle spicy food. No matter how late my business dinners ran, I'd have the kitchen prepare a light, nutritious meal for her. Even if I came home stumbling drunk, I checked to see if she'd eaten before I went to bed. I did it because I had fallen for her, but I could feel her coldness remained. Even during our thrice-weekly marital duties, I was the only one who seemed to be there. She simply endured it. One evening, I left the gala early to retrieve a file from home. The lights in the foyer were off, and only the warm glow of the dining room pendant remained. Eleanor was sitting on the sofa, one hand pressed against her stomach, the other holding a stack of quarterly reports. She looked up as I entered, a flicker of panic crossing her face. "Why are you back?" She instinctively dropped her hand and tried to look composed. She was always like this, refusing to show any sign of vulnerability, even to her husband. "I forgot a file. I needed it for tomorrow," I said, changing into my house shoes. My eyes stayed on her face. Stomach acting up again. She didn't answer, which was an admission in itself. "Why didn't you call the doctor?" I asked, my brow furrowed with genuine concern. "It's an old issue. It'll pass." She looked back down at her work. I walked over and took the papers out of her hands. "It's late. Go to bed." She looked up, a hint of annoyance in her eyes. "I'm fine, Ethan. You don't need to." She cut herself off, her face turning pale as she pressed her hand back against her stomach. I didn't argue. I went straight to the kitchen. 20 minutes later, I returned with a bowl of warm ginger-infused broth and a glass of water. "Drink this," I said, placing it in front of her. "From now on, I'll have the chef prepare a separate menu for you every night. Don't push yourself." She stared at the bowl, clearly stunned. "Thank you," she whispered. That was the first time she had ever said thank you and actually meant it. From that day on, the frost began to thaw. She spoke to me more often, her expressions softened, and she even started nagging me about my own health. There was another time, at a charity auction, where I overheard a group of socialites whispering about her. They called her the upstart's daughter and mocked her background. Their voices were just loud enough for us to hear. They wanted us to hear. We were making the rounds, and I felt Eleanor's grip on my arm tighten. Our friends tried to change the subject, looking awkward. I didn't ignore it. I put my arm around her waist and walked straight toward the women. "Ethan, what are you doing?" she whispered, her body tensing. I held her firmer. I looked at the women with a polite smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Eleanor Thorne is my wife. Anyone who has something to say about her background can say it to me, and anyone who disrespects her is an enemy of the Sterling family. I'll make sure you regret your words by tomorrow morning." Their faces went ghostly pale. They stumbled over their apologies. The room went quiet. Some people were shocked, some were envious. "You didn't have to do that," she said on the drive home. "I absolutely did," I replied, keeping my eyes on the road. "You're my wife. Protecting you is my job." She looked at me, her gaze complex. At that moment, the ice in her heart finally cracked. That night, after we both showered, she lay beside me and wrapped her arms around me from behind. "Thank you, Ethan." "For what?" "For standing up for me tonight." Her eyes were full of a warmth I'd never seen before. "No one has ever protected me like that. Get used to it. As long as I'm around, no one touches you." Before I could finish, she silenced me with a kiss. She was the aggressor that night, and for the first time, we were both truly there. For a while, we were like any other couple in the honeymoon phase. I thought this marriage, born of corporate greed, had finally blossomed into real love. Then Caleb Vance came back. Caleb was Eleanor's high school sweetheart. They had a brief, intense romance that ended before it really began. I only knew about him by chance. One day, while visiting her parents' house, I wandered into her old study. I found a framed photo tucked face down behind some books. It was a picture of her in a ponytail, laughing brightly, standing next to a tall, lanky boy with clean features. "Who's this?" I asked. She glanced at it, took the photo, tore it into pieces, and threw it in the trash. "Just an old college classmate. Your first love." I asked, watching her. Her expression remained indifferent. "He wasn't worth it," she said simply. I didn't push. Everyone has a past. I didn't care about a shadow. After all, she had been a virgin on our wedding night. But later, I heard the details from one of the Thorne family's distant relatives. They had been dating during their senior year. Caleb had spent years chasing her, and she had finally said yes. But then the Thorne family hit rock bottom. Bankruptcy loomed. Instead of standing by her side, Caleb Vance took what little liquid assets Thorne Enterprises had left, money he had been entrusted with for a project, and vanished. He left a note saying he was going overseas to scout better opportunities and was never heard from again. It broke her. Eleanor had it so hard back then, managing the company while taking care of her parents, who had both suffered breakdowns. It was a nightmare. Hearing that made me despise the man even more. He was a coward and a thief. I hoped I'd never cross paths with him, because if I did, I'd make him pay. I assumed he was gone for good. But then, one afternoon, I decided to surprise Eleanor at her office. I saw the whole pathetic scene play out from the street. I had my driver park a block away, so I could walk. As I approached the Thorn Enterprises building, I saw a familiar silhouette. He was wearing cheap jeans and a wrinkled white shirt. His hair was a mess, his eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like he'd been sleeping in a gutter. He was blocking Eleanor's path. She was trying to shake his hand off her arm. Why are you back? I don't want to talk about the past. I'm married, Caleb. So what if you're married? Caleb's voice was thick with fake emotion. You don't love him. It was a merger. I'm the only one who ever truly loved you. I watched from a distance, nearly laughing. True love? Is that what you call stealing her money and running? Now that he was broke and desperate, he came crawling back. Fiend. If he wanted to return, I'd make sure he found it very difficult to leave again. I stayed back to see how Eleanor would handle it. She shoved him away, her voice turning cold. Caleb, stop acting. When you stole my money, did you think about true love then? He froze, then put on a wounded expression. Eleanor, I had no choice. I couldn't save the company from within the States. I went abroad to try and strike it big, but I was scammed the moment I landed. I had nothing. I was too ashamed to come back. Do you have any idea what I've been through these years? The man actually started sobbing. It was the most transparently fake performance I'd ever seen. My fist tightened. Enough, Eleanor snapped. I don't want your explanations. Go away and don't come back. She got in her car and drove off without looking back. I exhaled, putting out my cigarette. I felt a sense of relief. She was rational. She could handle it. Or so I thought. I underestimated Caleb's thick skin and Eleanor's lingering soft spot for the past. The next day, as soon as Eleanor arrived at work, security called. A man was cutting his wrists in front of the building. It was Caleb. He'd made a shallow nick on his wrist, barely enough to bleed, and was lying on the sidewalk wailing her name. A crowd had gathered. People were taking photos. Fearing a PR nightmare that would affect my reputation as much as hers, Eleanor felt forced to act. She called an ambulance and accompanied him to the hospital. By the time I found out, he'd been in the hospital for 3 days. That night, she sat on our sofa, her fingers twisting her hem. Ethan, I'm sorry. I should have told you, she said softly. He was making such a scene, I was worried about the press. You want to see him? I asked. She nodded. He told me how much he's suffered abroad, how he was cheated and beaten. He says he's sorry and wants to make it up to me. Do you believe him? He's still here. She bit her lip. I don't know. My heart sank. She was wavering. But still, she hesitated. We went to school together. I couldn't just let him die on my doorstep. I reached out and ran a hand through her hair. Eleanor, you're not a stupid woman. You know he's lying. I love you, but I won't share your heart with a ghost. Handle it yourself. If I have to step in, things will get ugly. She looked at me with wide, shocked eyes. I had never spoken to her with such cold authority. It was an ultimatum. She looked away, leaning into my chest, whispering, I understand. I'll take care of it. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Caleb became a leech. One day he was hit by a car. The next he had food poisoning. The day after he was depressed and suicidal. Every time Eleanor tried to cut him off, he'd pull another stunt. She ended up paying his bills and sending people to check on him, trapped in his cycle of manipulation. I was busy with a major merger, so I gave her space to settle it, trusting her. Then came the Sterling Group's annual winter gala. The city's elite were there, our partners, our rivals, everyone. Eleanor was stunning in a deep red gown, her arm linked in mine. I leaned in and whispered, "You look incredible tonight." She blushed, but before she could respond, a voice cut through the room. Eleanor. Caleb Vance walked in, wearing a high-end tailored suit. He looked polished, well-fed. Clearly, Eleanor's charity had been substantial. He walked straight up to her, ignoring me entirely, and grabbed her wrist. Eleanor, come with me, he said, his eyes wild. Ethan doesn't love you. You're just a trophy to him. You'll never be happy here. The room went silent. People started circling like sharks. My face hardened, my eyes locking onto his hand on her wrist. Let go of her, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Caleb didn't let go. He tightened his grip. Ethan, you've kept her long enough. Look at her. Look how forced her smile is. She's miserable with you. He pulled a faded, yellowed photo from his pocket. Eleanor, look at this. Remember high school? Remember how you used to laugh? That was the real you. I saw Eleanor's eyes flicker. A moment of hesitation. It wasn't love, but it was nostalgia, and that was enough to make her freeze. She pulled her hand back, but all she said was, "Caleb, stop making a scene." That phrase, "stop making a scene," set my blood on fire. It was a scolding, not a rejection. I didn't say another word to Caleb. I nodded to my security detail. 2 guards stepped forward and pinned him. Caleb cried out as they twisted his arms behind his back. I turned to Eleanor, my disappointment palpable. "This is how you take care of it." She panicked, grabbing my arm. "Ethan, listen. He's still recovering from his injuries. I was just waiting until he was stronger to send him away for good. So your plan was to nurse him back to health, so he can enjoy a comfortable life on my dime?" I brushed her hand off. I was done. I gave the guard a look. They knew what to do. They dragged Caleb out of the ballroom. I announced to the guests that the party would continue and that I had a private matter to attend to. Eleanor followed me down to the basement of the hotel. In a soundproofed utility room, the guards were already systematically breaking Caleb Vance. When we entered, Caleb crawled toward us. "Ethan, stop. Eleanor, save me. They're going to kill me." Eleanor's lips trembled. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Ethan, please. Let it go. Don't let this get out of hand." I looked at her, and the chill in my eyes made her flinch. "Let it go. He humiliated me in front of the entire city. You think I'm just going to let it go?" I turned back to the guards. "Continue." The room filled with Caleb's screams until his voice finally gave out. A bucket of ice water was dumped over him. As soon as he sputtered back to consciousness, the beating resumed. Eleanor stood with her fists clenched, her face ashen. She squeezed her eyes shut, unable to watch. When Caleb was woken up for the 3rd time, she broke. "Enough." She pushed a guard aside and ran to me, grabbing my arm. "Ethan, stop it. He's going to die." And I smiled at her, but the smile was hollow. "Did you think I brought him down here for a massage?" "Ethan, it's my fault. I didn't handle it right. I'll send him out of the country right now. We had nothing, I swear. I'll never see him again." She was still trying to save him. She thought sending him away was a mercy. I saw right through her. I shoved her arm away, and she fell back onto the cold floor. "Send him away? Phoenix." I raised my hand, and the guard stopped. "I like that idea. But where should we send him? London? Or maybe a cartel-run border town in Mexico?" It was a test. A lethal one. One answer meant Caleb lived in comfort. The other was a death sentence. "Ethan, he lived in Europe for so long. He's settled there. Maybe we should send him back to Europe with a nice severance package, so he can live happily ever after." I finished for her, my voice dripping with sarcasm. She realized she'd stepped into a trap. "No, Ethan, that's not what I meant. I just thought if he was far away, he wouldn't bother us. If you wanted him to stop bothering us, there's no place better than the cartel borderlands. I can guarantee he won't be coming back. At least, not in one piece." But what? My temper finally flared. My voice boomed in the small room. "You're still protecting him. Eleanor, are you insane? When you were at your lowest, he robbed you and left you to rot. You should want him dead, but here you are, shielding him. You deserve every bit of pain he caused you." I turned to the guards. "Beat him. To death. Eleanor, save me. They'll kill me. I'll go to the border. I'll go. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Caleb was rambling now, the fear of death finally overriding his ego. "Phoenix, Ethan, fine. Send him to the border. Just don't kill him here." Eleanor screamed, unable to watch anymore. I gave the guards the green light. They loaded the broken man into a car. I walked out and got into my own vehicle. Eleanor tried to follow, but I blocked her. "What are you doing?" "We're going home, Ethan. I am hungry." "Let's go home, and you can make those sliders I like." She tried to smile, her voice trembling. The sheer denial was staggering. She thought we could just go back to normal. "We don't have a home anymore. I want a divorce." "What?" Her mouth fell open. She tried to laugh, but it came out as a sob. "Ethan, don't joke. That's not funny." She reached for me, but I stepped back. The tears started flowing down her face. "Ethan, please. You love me. You've always taken care of me. You can't just—" "I did love you, but you know my nature. I would do anything for you. But I will not have a woman whose heart belongs to someone else. I gave you every chance to end this yourself. Instead, you protected him right in front of my face. I can't imagine what you've been doing behind my back." Eleanor panicked. She tried to force her way into the car, terrified that if I left her there, she'd lose everything. I had the guards hold her back. I closed the door, blocking out her screams, and drove away without looking back. Caleb Vance's life at the border was a nightmare. It was a world of human trafficking, scams, and violence where life was cheaper than a pack of cigarettes. Because I'd left special instructions, he was treated with extra care. Daily beatings and cattle prods were his new routine. To survive, he told the cartel bosses he knew wealthy people back home. He joined their cyber scam operation. He was handsome and silver-tongued. He climbed the ranks quickly. The business was simple. Lure people from the States with promises of high-paying jobs, then lock them up, force them to scam others, or harvest their organs. Caleb struggled at first. Most people he knew already knew he was a pariah. A month passed without a single sale. But when he saw a fellow captive beaten to death for failing his quota, Caleb's last shred of conscience evaporated. He thought of his parents, his siblings. They were family. Surely they would want to help him? It's not that I'm heartless, he whispered to himself, his eyes cold. It's that if I don't give them their hearts, they'll take mine. He used his charm on his own blood. He called his parents, claiming he'd found a gold mine investment in Mexico and needed capital. They hesitated, but he was their son. They sold their house and sent him everything. When the money ran out, Caleb told them his company needed staff. The elderly couple packed their bags and crossed the border, only to be thrown into a cage the moment they arrived. Caleb looked at his parents through the bars. No guilt, only a smug smile. Dad, Mom, don't hate me, he said. You don't have many years left anyway. Your organs could save someone else. Think of it as your final good deed. The cartel boss patted his shoulder. Kid, you're a real piece of work. You're more of a monster than I am. I like you. Once he started, he couldn't stop. He lured his younger brother, his sister, and several cousins with the same lies. They came for the high-paying jobs and found a living hell instead. Caleb became the top seller of the compound. He had money and power now, and he watched his family suffer with a sick sense of satisfaction. But eventually, he ran out of relatives. He knew that once he was no longer useful, the boss would kill him. I need one more big score, he muttered. He thought of Eleanor. He remembered how she'd begged for his life. He was her white moonlight, her first love. He believed that if he cried to her, she'd come to save him. Then he could kidnap her and ransom her back to me for millions. He managed to smuggle a message to her. Eleanor, it's Caleb. I'm in trouble at the border. My life is in danger. I know I hurt you, but I've always loved you. Please come save me. If you save me, I'll disappear forever. I won't bother you and Ethan again. Please. Caleb waited, convinced Eleanor would come. He believed in the power of the first love myth. But Eleanor wasn't the same woman. After I filed for divorce, she had spent every waking moment trying to win me back. But I refused to see her. As the saying goes, a woman loves you most when you no longer love her. Now that I was gone, she spent her nights drinking and crying, replaying every kind thing I'd ever done for her. When she saw Caleb's message, she didn't feel pity. She felt a white-hot rage. She threw her phone against the wall, shattering it. Why did you have to come back? If it weren't for you, I'd still have my husband. You ruined everything. The white moonlight had become a stain she wanted to scrub away. Sir, Marcus, my assistant, enter my office. Report, I said, not looking up from my files. I assumed the news from the border was that Caleb was finally dead. Caleb Vance has been promoted. He's a supervisor at the compound now. The pen in my hand snapped. What? He's a supervisor? Did he grow a second brain, or something? I couldn't believe it. Marcus explained how Caleb had sold out his entire family to save his own skin. The man is a parasite, I muttered. I was a ruthless businessman, but Caleb Vance was on a level of depravity I couldn't even fathom. Marcus placed a folder on my desk. Sir, here's the rest of the file you wanted. Caleb's activities during his years in Europe. I opened it and winced. Jesus. He really was a piece of work. I shut the folder, my stomach turning, and I looked at Marcus. Is Eleanor still coming by every day? Every day, sir. Today she brought your favorite steak tips. Her cooking has actually gotten quite good. Do you want me to bring some in? No, give it to the interns. I looked at the file again. A plan began to form. I leaned in and whispered to Marcus. His eyes widened. Sir, that's dark, but I'll get it done. When Eleanor received the leaked medical reports, she lost her mind. She tore through the papers, screaming at Marcus. Is this true? Ethan was fine a month ago. How can his kidneys and heart be failing now? It was the stress, ma'am. Years of drinking at corporate events, the late nights, and the recent emotional toll. He's dying. Marcus put on a convincing show of grief. Eleanor's strength left her. It's my fault. All those dinners he went to for me. It's all my fault. A week later, Eleanor Thorne disappeared. She sold her company, her properties, and her jewelry, and vanished. 2 weeks after that, Marcus ran into my office, looking genuinely shaken. Sir, a package just arrived from Mexico. It's a medical cooler. I felt a chill go down my spine. I opened the box. Inside, preserved in medical-grade solution, were 2 kidneys and a heart. Did she do this? Marcus whispered. Who else? I replied. I had only meant to trick her into leaving me alone by faking a terminal illness. I never expected her to go on a harvest. Since then, I've received regular shipments. Not organs, but crates of tropical fruit and local Mexican delicacies sent from untraceable locations. Eleanor's epilogue. When I saw the truth about Caleb's life in Europe, the scams, the women, the filth, and then heard that Ethan was dying because of the stress I caused him, my world ended. It was all Caleb's fault. He stole my youth, and then he stole my happiness. Ethan had protected me, loved me, and I had thrown it away for a ghost. I didn't hesitate. I sold everything I owned and hired a team of mercenaries. We went to the border. I bought Caleb Vance from the cartel. When he saw me, he cried with joy, thinking I was his savior. That joy didn't last. As soon as we were in my territory, I had my men break his legs. Eleanor, you're crazy. How can you do this to me? He screamed, his face contorted in pain. I walked up to him and gripped his throat. I looked at him like he was a cockroach. You shouldn't have come back. If you'd stayed away, you'd be alive, and I'd still have my husband. Ethan Sterling? He left you. Eleanor, you still have me. Shut up. You aren't fit to speak his name. I squeezed until his face turned purple, then let go. You aren't dying yet. You're still useful. I had him tested. It took 3 days, but the results were a match. We didn't waste money on anesthesia. He didn't deserve it. He was wide awake as the surgeons began to harvest what was needed. His screams echoed through the clinic until they finally faded into a rattle. I packed his heart and kidneys and sent them to Ethan. I heard the transplant was a success. I can't go back now. I've done things that can't be undone. But every night, I look at the stars and pray for him. As long as Ethan is healthy and happy, everything I did was worth it. Story complete.